to order.
Next month you should show what.
Did you want these back?
No, I gave them to you.
Okay.
They've been reviewed again.
Okay.
This is the signed.
I did go through them. Yeah.
Ready to
Good
give
ass.
us
I was sitting in the dentist
update,
chair.
Brian?
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Thanks,
That's
George.
Eunice.
We had our
Make sure it doesn't go to Humes.
latest job meeting out at the site at 2 o'clock. And a lot of the issues that have been swirling around for the last,
Excuse me, meeting's called to order.
Hold on, sir.
a lot of the issues that have been swirling around, I think, are coming to a close. We've made some progress on the site utilities. There's still a question about the size of a water line that we need to clarify with the plumbing engineer. But most of the utilities are into the building, and the 2/3 of the slab is looking to get poured this week. They had some delays because of the weather, because of the storm that came in, but they're looking to pour 2/3 of the slab this week, and they're preparing for that. We have three submittal items from the contractor that we want to get clarified and finalized. One is the HVAC, and we've talked about that in the past. The resubmittal on the carrier system is being worked out through the manufacturer and the engineers. They've had meetings, they're in discussions on how they're resolving all the issues. In conversation with my engineers, they're feeling confident that carrier is going to be a comparable and approved product, but they don't have yet the paperwork that they need submitted to stamp it and approve it. And until we have that, and that's incumbent on the contractor to provide. We don't have it yet to say we have an approved mechanical system. There's also been conversations about the interior stairs. We are very close to resolving that with the subcontractor. That subcontractor is a filed sub-bidder, so he's not a direct sub to BC Construction. He was a low-bid filed sub-bidder. And we've now marked up, I think it was submission number 4, as a revise and resubmit. So the last submission we received still was not code compliant as far as dimensional requirements of the stair. If they can adjust the dimensions that we feel are making it code compliant, that's all that needs to be done. I think as far as structure is concerned, we're comfortable with the structure, but they had some dimensional
Why was that so hard to
discrepancies that we need resolved.
You know,
I expect that submittal to get turned around quickly. If they can correct the dimensional requirements that we're looking for, then that'll be behind us.
Yeah.
can you just maybe help me understand how that has been so difficult? I mean, we've had, how can it be this difficult that we've gone through 4 different drawings of how to put one flight of stairs in and we can't get it code compliant? How's that possible?
It's a good question. We react to what's being submitted to us, and this is not a typical condition where it takes 4 submissions. The first couple submissions had to do with the way they were looking to construct and install the stair, and we rejected it on the basis of not maintaining fire separation. And what they've done to now provide a structure within the stair enclosure, they've now affected the dimensions that we had in our drawings. So, no, it's not a typical thing, but as far as the process is typical, that we show a dimensional stair, we show where the stairs go, and then we rely on the miscellaneous metals contractor to tell us how they're going to actually provide the structure for that stair. It's up to them. We know it's going to be a steel frame stair, we know it's going to be concrete infill. They know that when they're bidding it. But there could be a dozen different ways to build it within the enclosure. It's up to them to engineer that. They have done that, they have engineered it, they have provided the engineering data. So they're doing what they need to do, it's just not dimensionally correct. We have a process of bidding and low bid, filed sub-bid contractor.
Okay.
Brian, I guess I don't understand is how come it's not your drawing and your requirements and he files a bid that fits that? Why is it him giving you
Speaks well to the
something
low
that
bidders.
he wants to put in?
That's a typical process with public bidding. We show them the dimensional requirements of the stair, the rise, the run, the treads, the risers. We show them how it's to be, what the materials were to be provided. But different bidders will provide it on a different structural considerations, and then they provide the engineering that says to us it satisfies code. And that's typical in all our projects. It's typical not just through our office, but this is the way architects bid.
Have you had a project 0 for 4 on one flight of stairs?
No, this is unusual. Well, we don't like to review it 4 times either. It's 3 times more work for us now to do that.
4 times.
Well, we expect once.
Doesn't speak well to the low bidder, does it?
No,
Anything else that this same subcontractor is working on? I mean, is this,
yeah, stairs aren't the only thing that he's providing. He's providing handrails, guardrails, lintels for masonry lintels that we need in exterior walls, any bollards that are on the outside of the building, anything that's not structural steel supporting a floor. They call it miscellaneous metals.
but nothing as complicated as stairs?
The stairs is
We're not expecting any.
no, the stairs would be the biggest dollar item in his contract. He has other components.
I mean, I looked at the comments, and they're all, what they're saying is right. The code, it wasn't compliant with the code. The only downside of this is just the time frame between submittals. It's just, when it goes to Brian's office, it was a couple of weeks, and then when it gets sent back, it's, 3 weeks, and that's where the time frame, plays out, unfortunately.
Well, let's hope 5 is magic.
Another item that came up was the elevator. The original contract scope had a $100,000 allowance because there was no filed sub-bidder on the elevator scope. So BC Construction went out and obtained quotes, and they submitted a quote for ThyssenKrupp elevator, and we've installed the pit according to that elevator shaft dimension. And ThyssenKrupp has not been able to accept the contract terms for the project. So with that, BC Construction has terminated negotiations with ThyssenKrupp. The new elevator that's being proposed is a Delta Beckwith elevator. So we're waiting for submittals to see how that coordinates with the shaft dimension that we have started with. We feel that we won't have a problem there, but we just need to see a resubmittal now on the elevator. It was all submitted, it was all approved, we were all set to go, and there was a change order that was already processed for a credit because the contract was less than a $100,000 allowance.
I remember that.
What I'm being told is the Delta Beckwith elevator is now at $103,000, not at $88,000 that was the price that ThyssenKrupp had. So we have to look at a couple things. We have to look at, is the $103,000 elevator an acceptable alternate? Does it fit in the pit? Does it fit in the shaft dimension? Does it have the same requirements or better than what we specified?
The contract was with the contractor?
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know what the reason was that they found it unacceptable?
I think, Matt, you have...
Thyssen wanted to have no liability after the construction phase was ended, and BC said, no, we want you to have liability. Thyssen came back as we provide a year warranty, and BC said, no, all my other subs, every other contractor has to have some sort of liability that if something structurally goes wrong with this, you're liable, and Thyssen wouldn't sign it. And this went back and forth. I got involved with their insurance agents, and Thyssen absolutely refused to work with this. And I even talked to Crestis Insurance to see if there's any workarounds, and I talked to everybody to try to get them to work together. And they're both dug their heels in the sand, and
So they wouldn't own their work?
They wouldn't own their work. They would own a warranty, but no, if anything was wrong with the building.
Okay.
So,
That's a good reason to not do business with them.
and I can honestly say, there was probably 100 emails back and forth and phone calls, and they did try to work with them, gave them many options, tried a lot, and this one just wouldn't do it.
Okay, thanks.
And Delta Beckwith has no problem with the contract terms that
No.
BC Construction has presented, so this has eliminated that roadblock, has given us the contract, a manufacturer that we can work with, but it's now a new submittal that we have to review and base our approvals on. We are working on 2 bid packages right now with the town to get bids in. One of them is the IT security and data bid package for the Norfolk Police and both the police and the MEC. I should have a final draft on that this week. We did have a productive conversation with the town about what they want to include in the bid package. Some of the technical requirements that they're looking for servers and network switches and components that we now have to put into our package. The Avigilon system that I reported on last time, that there was a question on whether there should be a sole proprietor, non-proprietary spec put together. The town has reviewed that and recommended that it be an open bid with Avigilon being a preferred vendor. But there's no guarantee that the low bidder would be carrying that software system. So we'll bid it that way, we'll see what the bids come back as, and then the town has an opportunity to evaluate it. The MEC, I've talked to the MEC on this, and through Gary Primo, and the MEC is going to be joining this bid as an alternate. And for the MEC, it's an alternate being a complete separate operating system. They will not have any tie-ins to the Norfolk PD system at all. So it's an alternate that could be a take it or leave it alternate. Once the bids are received, the MEC is going to determine whether it's in their best interest to accept the alternate or not accept the alternate. So they have a vendor that they would like to utilize. They have pricing in place for that vendor, but they're curious to see what the bid results are. So we're going to maintain that as a bid alternate. The other bid package that we're putting together and assisting is the mass rock removal over at the fire department. And I think when we get bid dates, I think the thought is we're going to probably bid those all around the same time frame and get bids out and bids back. So we'll have to just determine dates and what the right dates are for receipt of bids on those 2 packages. The application for payment number 5 was reviewed by both CDR McGuire and our office. We submitted application number 5 in the amount of $236,968.05. Now, within that $236,000 application for payment, it does include change orders that are identified in the handout. And if anybody, there are extra copies on the table. And this is change order number 2, which is being proposed. Total change order proposal is $112,000, $394.91. And within that change order number 2 are numerous items. I think most of the items are site work related and have involved time and material pricing that's been submitted by BC Construction. And we've reviewed these numbers, and a couple of them have been negotiated further through the town. And we're recommending change order number 2. If you're looking at the change order proposal numbers, some have an R next to them. An R next to them means that that proposal has been revised from its original submission. An 03R, additional concrete slab removal, that price was reduced from the original proposal that it had come in. But if you're looking at '07 through 11, and 15 and 17. So '07, '08, '09, 10, 11, 15, and 17. Those change order proposals are being proposed as a split between Norfolk and the MEC. So half the cost is indicated on the change order number 2 for the Norfolk Police. And if you turn the page over to the backside, you'll see that the other half of the change order is represented in change order proposal, would be change order number 3 to the MEC for $30,410.68. Now, in conversations with BC Construction, with some hesitation, they were amenable to splitting these change orders into 2 packages. And that was with the understanding that it be presented that way, but if the MEC was refusing for some reason to pay this, then this amount would come back to the town of Norfolk for payment. So we're presenting it this way to you. We have not presented yet to the MEC or received any approvals on the MEC side. But this is what is being proposed, and I did review it with Gary and Jack, and felt that $112,394 should be the number going forward on your side of the equation. And we would find out the determination on the MEC side at a later date.
Next Wednesday is our next meeting.
So all of this is for work performed to date. All this work is work in place. Nothing is being proposed for future. It's all work that's been performed.
Brian, where's the elevator at on here?
It's under pending change requests at the bottom of page 1, because I don't have any number on that yet, or approvals on that yet. So there are 2 pending. Additional owner requested site work. There's still some trenching that's being done out there that's being done on time and material, and then the elevator allowance adjustment is still a pending item.
So the only one, and Al and I had a conversation today, and I know we've talked about this one a million times, but 03, that's the one that BC went on, take out the whole slab, and and they did that, and you responded, the same kind of conversation I had with Al today, you had responded that, that was the contractor did it at his own risk based on the instruction he had received, or lack of instruction he had received. I know maybe Matt and Bob, I know you had conversations with Mike, and negotiated that down some. I guess I'm just asking, are we comfortable at this point that, based on the general conditions contract, the general contractor moved forward at his own risk. Now, we all agreed, too, that it was work that was good to be done at the end of the day, but, so are we where we want to be, I guess is the...
Personally, I think it's a better job with it all taken out than trying to piecemeal it like it was drawn. We're gonna have a better vapor barrier under the whole slab completely, when it's all said and done. I don't like the fact that he went and did it without prior approval, but I also want to work with him, because honestly, I think he's working with us as far as getting, doing some of this excavation work. He's not charging us at every little thing that he's done. So I think there's a give and take there. So that's my take. To me, we could push back and try to get it lower, but I just think it's just going to cause more bad blood, and so I think we're benefiting the fact that it did come out.
He cut 20% off or something to that effect, if my math is right.
My only issue with the thing is Bob's 100% right, it's a better job. It's happened, but My issue is that he was given direction to do it.
Yeah, but I think and Alan, we can talk about that, but Alan and I went through that, and I think Brian had the same opinion that the general contract, I agree with you, with the general contractor, he was supposed to follow rules, and he didn't, so, and I know, there's circumstances there, but, I think we've been through that part of the discussion.
It's the right way to do the job. They're, gonna have one pour, they're gonna have the vapor one in there, which everything will adhere to, especially hearing, the vapor barrier was a problem, and hearing that we had to put in a additive, so the tiles and whatnot will actually adhere to it, and knowing that there was issues with the other slab, we might have maintenance issues if we didn't do this, so.
I'm thinking of you, Matt.
Okay.
So you're looking for us to approve these, or did we already approve them?
I would think it's appropriate to have a motion to approve the items listed under change order number 2, because then we would put together formal paperwork. We have to process that change order separately and get separate signatures on them.
So the change orders that you discussed of sharing with MEC, these are already the shared figures?
They are.
All right, so these are,
Yeah, you'll see the numbers on the back of the
the
sheet.
same,
which is-
yeah.
Here's your 50% share.
Right.
So I'd make a motion to approve change order 2.
For $112,000.
$112,394.91.
Does that include tax?
All the tax that we're supposed to pay.
Do I have a second? Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's approved.
And a non-enthusiastic approval.
I know.
Yeah, no one likes change orders.
No.
I mean, so as Jack mentioned, the other change order proposals are going to be presented to the MEC, and we're thinking positive on that. We're not thinking there's going to be an issue, but we have to put together the same paperwork and present it to them for approval. There's been some conversation about the tower grounding, providing a ground between the tower and the electrical room. There's provisions that are under the slab for that. Once the MEC determines who the tower contractor is, they will be responsible for all the grounding of the tower, so there's no more scope that's required in BC construction scope of work, so that's a closed item.
The size of the slab versus 16 versus 24 is no longer a concern?
Until we know the contractor, we don't have an answer, and they're going to bid that. They still have not bid that package. So if they have not bid that package, we probably won't know that contractor until December at the earliest.
But it doesn't impact the location of the grounding wire?
No.
Okay.
And that's all in the hands of MEC.
And it's completely a MEC installation. Yep. And their requirements of the tower contractor is geotechnical engineering, designing for the rock or soil conditions that are there. So they have to take borings, determine soil conditions, top of rock. They have to provide all grounding to the tower and base and tower erection. So it's a complete package that's outside of your scope.
Okay.
Those are my highlights.
Should we approve up to 104 for the elevator? So that way they can get a contract going, so that doesn't, I think the number's 103.75. We had 100, and then we got a credit. So that was down so we have like a $10,000 credit. So we'd have to re-up it to like a $15,000 additional, or $14,000. So that way we had a credit of 10,718.61, and that was from 100. So if we added that plus another 4,000, so $15,000, and that way they can get a credit, or they can get a contract going with the elevator company, so we can move that instead of waiting because it's gonna need to happen,
Not to exceed?
not to exceed 15,000.
Would it be clearer just to define the amount that we're approving as opposed to?
I don't have that yet. I don't,
But, what I mean is, I understand fully what you just said, but is that the right way? Wouldn't it be, that is confusing, I think, to some folks, just to simply say, we approve this particular component of the project up to $105,000. Wouldn't that be the appropriate way to do this, as opposed to pulling back the 10, adding it on with another 4? It just seems to me to be a convoluted way to do it.
well, you're not having to approve $103,000 or $105,000.
Well, 100,000 was the allocation, we got a credit, so we're down to 88. So is the right answer just to approve an additional sum in excess of the 88?
It is.
Okay.
I would agree with Matt.
Okay, so that would be 12 and 4, so it would be 16.
Right.
I'm going to write that down. He agreed with you.
Write it twice. So is 16 the right number?
Yes, and not to exceed?
Right.
Yes.
All right, so I move to approve an additional $16,000 for the elevator project.
I second it.
Any further
You want to
discussion?
third it?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, it's approved.
Another item I have a question on is, it's been presented to us that the testing company that we signed with, which was named Briggs, did not provide prompt service, and they were very lackadaisical in responses. So both Mike Cresta and CDR McGuire have had good dealings with this company called UTS of Massachusetts. Al did a comparison, feels, because some of their prices are higher, some of their prices are a little bit lower, but they're very responsive. So they like to have us stop using Briggs and use this company before signing any contracts. I wanted to make sure. So they can do all our samplings of the concrete, soils, all the destructive, non-destructive.
I thought they were already lined up to come out Thursday, weren't they?
We approved them to come out just for that one.
Just for that one.
One section.
Okay.
Because we wanted to have an analysis done to see why we were getting rid of one, because on the face, it appears that they're more expensive. But there's a response time, and they do it differently. Briggs did it hourly. These guys do a minimum and maximum. So it's kind of hard to compare because they're not apples to apples how they bid them. But
We've used UTS on other projects
Yeah,
in Briggs, so it's, you know,
probably not a whole lot of
it
difference.
really depends on who they're sending out, so,
Yeah.
I don't have an issue with either one of them.
we already had a not to exceed, I think, $10,000 with Briggs. I don't know what the number is that we spent with Briggs, but we can potentially not to spend remainder up to $10,000 with this corporation.
Yeah, you can put that as part of the, motion, I guess.
So I motion that we reuse the,
Did the original motion say it was for Briggs or just for testing?
I thought it was for Briggs, I'm not positive.
All right.
Should I get clarification on that first, or, because they're gonna want to use these guys?
No, you can make a motion.
So I make a motion to reuse the remaining funds that we okayed up to $10,000 to switch from Briggs Engineering to UTS. I do not know the number. They didn't do that many testings, so I'm sure there's still many $1,000s left
Yeah.
within that last motion.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second?
I see we have discussion out in the audience.
Ernie Alex, as most of you know. UTS, excellent. I've used them on many. In fact, we ended up using them here when we built this town hall.
Good to know.
Good endorsement, Ernie, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Brian?
Are they going to be named as special inspector also? Are they going to be special inspector and testing lab?
They were the
They're
one.
gonna be doing all the testing, yeah.
So they should be notified that we need their PE to also act as the special inspector. Because the state code requires monthly reports from the special
Right.
inspector.
Yep.
So they can do both.
So they need to be notified.
They report back to you?
They report to you.
I'll put it right on their contract before we sign it.
Yeah, so it's special inspector plus testing lab. And they can do both. We've had experience with them doing both.
Do they fill it out to the state, though?
They report to you. They give you a monthly report,
Special inspector?
yeah.
Do you need to change the motion?
Motion to
Just to add on the,
add on that they're also the special inspector assigned to this project that will report to us.
Second it again.
Does that change the number you wanted,
No,
the 10,000?
No,
not right now. If we have to, we can change that later.
yeah.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's what I'm pleased there.
I think we're still good, though.
Anything else, Brian?
None for me. I don't know if Matt or Al has more on the site work activity that's,
No.
and I know that the town has brought some personnel on for site work.
we've actually made good progress there.
Good,
Yes.
yeah,
Talk to Mike, he's pleased.
good.
Yes.
That's been working out really well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I don't know if everybody heard it, but Bob and John Weddleton, mostly Bob, have potentially saved us hundreds of thousands of dollars on this job by discovery with the groundwater, which is a huge, huge savings. So that makes me feel a million times better about our budget.
No, $100,000 better,
200,000,
200,000.
hopefully.
That was very good news.
Yes.
Kudos to Bob.
Anything else?
Can we talk about the heating system?
Sure.
Because if they're gonna, essentially approve this, it's gonna cost $40,000 difference, 39 and change.
Plus a markup, right? Plus BC's markup.
Wait,
I'm not
gotta
following.
go full sentences. You telling to change to,
Change from Carrier to Mitsubishi. I just, of what, everything that I hear, that Mitsubishi is that superior of a product than Carrier.
Well, originally, the gap was significantly more than that. Did
Oh,
Mitsubishi
I
come
know
back
what
with
number
a
you're
fine
talking
bid?
about. Yeah, there was, BC Construction had forwarded information from the mechanical contractor that the Mitsubishi package at the time of bid, Mitsubishi and Carrier were $100,000 apart on their bid amount. Mitsubishi they reported now that Mitsubishi is $39,000 apart, still on the high side, over the Carrier number. So you as the owner have the right to say, okay, we want to pay the extra $39,000 and get the Mitsubishi system.
It's $39,199, not including BC's 5% markups and 0.7% bond costs.
Yeah. So I forwarded that information in an email, and I told BC Construction that I've given the information to the town, but where to proceed, because I don't want to hold up BC Construction. If you go and say, stop to Carrier and resubmit on Mitsubishi, then the brakes are on, and it's a new submission, it's time, and now it's a delay, and it opens up a whole additional issues that are going to come your way from the contractor. Now you're stopping his job. So I told him to continue to have Carrier work with the engineers to see if they can resolve the issues. If they can resolve the issues, then it's still their contract, and we're prepared to approve it. If you on the owner's side elect that this is a system that you don't feel is equal, or you prefer to go to Mitsubishi just because you have a preference, you have to then pay for that difference in contract price, which would be about $40,000 or in the neighborhood of.
About $45,000.
Plus, that doesn't include any potential delays or contractors' resubmission or, so it could be in excess of that.
So these things that they're going, the submissions that they're going back and forth on now, is that just talking about, is that just talking about installation and standards, et cetera, or is it talking about long-term?
Has to do with performance.
Okay.
It's comparing the specified product to the performance of the specified product, to the submitted product. So we're comparing specifications to submittals, making sure that the performance is equal or better.
And warranty must be in there too, some warranties, yeah.
So, I know very little about these systems, so these are somewhat naive questions, but I mean, is this just a preference, or are there statistics to back up the fact that this is a significantly better unit, worth 45 grand?
You know, I'm not an HVAC expert. I can just tell you what I've heard from the contractor, what I've heard from other contractors that have put in these systems, that Mitsubishi is the top of the line product out there. So, you know, that has been proven that it works and it works well. They just put it in, he just put it into the Foxborough Town Hall, the same exact system. And,
But Carrier is a well-known name as well.
yeah, but not for heat pumps as much as for regular air conditioning systems.
It's like having an automotive line and comparing, like, you can't say that Ford makes a great, how do you say this? Like, it's like a Toyota versus a Ford, they'll both get you there, but the Toyota's it's just better built, it'll last longer. I've talked to a couple of people in the industry too, and everybody knows I wasn't a big fan of this style, but I've talked to several people and asked true opinions of them. And I understand that the training is much better for Mitsubishi. Carrier makes great products. This isn't one of them. This is not one of their better products as far as ease of use, parts. Just it hasn't been where Mitsubishi makes like the best city style, and that's from everybody that I've heard from in the industry that does the commercial stuff. So
It's a huge part of a building.
I know.
So for my opinion, this is short money to go to the best product that's out there. What is your thoughts, Brian?
I know that VRF systems have been utilized in Europe a lot longer than they've been utilized in the United States. And in Europe, they go back 50 years. In the United States, they don't. But they go back 20 years. And it's gaining popularity in the United States quite rapidly because of energy efficiency, and a lot of people like the systems. They're very efficient and they're user-friendly. Mitsubishi has been the leader in this technology in the United States and been the leader in introducing this technology to the United States. So they have a leg up on their systems. There were 3 other manufacturers at the time of bid who were interested in selling their products to this project. One was Carrier, one was LG, which you see them in the residential side a lot, is LG, and then Daikin. You might not be familiar with Daikin, but you might be familiar with York. York is now Daikin. And the Carrier and the Daikin, or what was York, they've been in more packaged rooftop manufacturing than VRF. So they haven't been in the business as long,
An opinion, you know more about this than I do.
but they're reputable manufacturers.
I know a lot of people that have Mitsubishis and they're all very happy. I don't know anybody that has a Carrier. How long has Carrier been doing this?
Or over 5 years.
5 years.
Mitsubishi for 20?
Yeah, over 20.
Over 20.
Yeah, Mitsubishi was telling us when we went to their school, I'd say up in Westboro, 85% of Europe uses heat pumps now, and their utility costs are higher than ours. Their fuel is higher than ours, and there's a reason for them to go to that, because it is, much cheaper to run, to heat the space and cool the space, and the fact that we have solar electric is why we went with the heat pump, because of that, but,
Okay.
I do know that most of the engineers that we utilize, and we don't just utilize one mechanical engineer for our projects, but all of the engineers base their specifications around Mitsubishi. That seems to be the system that gets specified. And because of public bidding, it always has to be an or equal. So while Mitsubishi gets specified a lot as the basis of design, it's pretty common that we don't see Mitsubishi get installed because their price point is higher. So and contractors are looking for every savings they can at bid day. So it is a common condition that while you specify one manufacturer, it's not always the fact that you can get that manufacturer submitted and
But we can authorize that additional cost.
you can.
Question, George?
Yes.
Just for Matt, as far as the overall operation and maintenance of the equipment, comparing the two, which is easier from your perspective to maintain?
I deal with the town, I have Mulkern Mechanical, do the larger ACs. They said that everything about Mitsubishi VRF city systems are much easier to work on, easier to get parts, easier for training. It's just a easier product to deal with. So, I mean, downtime, I think we should definitely go this route. It's over the life of the building.
And I've heard you imply, but did you in fact mean that they are more efficient, that they're lower cost to operate?
We were looking at that with the motor and the
I'm not
amperages.
saying that.
there's, they have a distribution box. I don't know if Brian knows, do you know much about the distribution box, where they can actually call for heat and cooling out of the same distribution box? And the cooling part of it is, I believe that they can get the cooling out of it for no additional cost while they're getting the heat out of it. It's, how that works, I don't really understand it, but that's how it
Well,
works.
a good analogy on that distribution box is your refrigerator at home. If you open up the freezer, you're getting cold air out of the freezer, but if you go to the bottom at the floor and you're feeling heat coming out of the bottom of the refrigerator, so it's venting heat off your refrigerator, and they're taking that heat and they're using it on the heating side. So out of that box, you do get cooling and you do get heat. The other efficient part about just VRF in general, and this is not Mitsubishi that does this, this is all the manufacturers do this, is if you can have heating and cooling occurring at the same time within the building, and the efficiency comes that if they're looking to cool one room, they'll steal the energy off another unit and transfer it over, so they'll balance the heating to the cooling side, and that's the efficiency of it. It's a variable speed system, so it doesn't just turn on at high fan speed when you need it. It's all variable. So that's what's driving the efficiency. But that's not unique to Mitsubishi. That's true with Carrier and all the manufacturers, which gives you the efficiency. So no, I can't sit here and say Mitsubishi's going to save you on energy over the life of the system versus Carrier. They're all very close on efficiencies.
There was a question on the,
Ernie had some, you had something on, yeah?
Just picture this building, all the money we spent, the aggravation, Carrier.
So,
Okay, motion to, I'd like to make
This building Carrier? This Carrier equipment?
See the big unit out there that screams every night? This was supposed to be a system that the heat would come on to get rid of the humidity. Didn't work too well, and they had to throw all the paperwork away. And then working with the people were just, they're mechanics they sent out here, so-called mechanics, were just horrible.
Good to know.
Well, this one is not VRF
No,
though,
no,
so
No.
it's a different system, but it's same manufacturer.
And it was built 20 years
That
ago.
decision needs to be made fairly quickly, doesn't it?
Oh, it probably wanted to be made last month, but we really only got the number within the last couple of weeks.
Well, let's say we decide tonight to switch to Mitsubishi. How does that impact BC?
We would then direct BC through Apex to provide a new submittal. We would reject the carrier product, and we would prepare a change order for the difference in price. That change order could get followed up with delay claims that would cost some additional money, but that's up to the contractor to determine, not us. There's a potential for that, though, because they are looking to start layouts and underground for the HVAC systems now.
How long would it take to submit everything? Because they're looking to do the slab, make the cores for the whichever HVAC system we're going with, but they won't be ready to do HVAC work for quite some time.
I think we could plan the service entrances. If we know what system's going to get installed, we can plan the service entrances. That's the immediate
And
need.
I believe that from talking with the general, that he would be very on board to go with the Mitsubishi because ease of installation and the size requirements are smaller, which would make everybody's life easier, so I believe he'd be fine without going after it because it only benefits him.
Yeah, and that's why I said I can't speak for the contractor on any future delay claims. There's a potential. I just needed to advise you there's a potential. It may not happen.
He hasn't, I know he's telling us that it's gonna come in late right now, but he hasn't made any claims to being late.
No, and he has,
Published his schedule that says it could be 2 months late, but he said there's room for, there
Makeup.
could be room for makeup in there.
right.
So make your motion.
I say making a motion until we know it's fully vetted, because the chance is, carrier still could not make all the requirements, therefore they'd have to give us that's the fear, and that's why there hasn't really been a push to decide this yet, is because they're still not fully vetted, that they can't positively rule out carrier, and there's still,
Well, how much time do we have? You made the statement we should have made this decision last month, and I understand the logic of that, so somehow that flies in the face of waiting 2 or 3 more weeks.
Yeah, I would want to get in front of this, but what Matt's referring to is our engineers are the one to determine equal, as far as the specification's concerned. They're working with Carrier on the issues that they had on their first submission. There was a page and a half of comments. Last I talked with RDK, they said that Carrier was close to meeting all of their requirements. So they were on a path for approval. I can determine with RDK how confident that they are whether this path of approval is going to happen. If they're feeling Carrier can meet or exceed the specs and end up with an approved submission, then that's all the information I need to know that we need a change order in place to get to Mitsubishi. If RDK says there's no way this is equal, then it would be a rejection and a resubmission, and then they would owe us another manufacturer that they feel meets or exceeds the spec. It could be LG. It could be Dakin,
Well, it won't be one that's more expensive.
but they're not going to want to go $40,000 more.
Right.
And LG and Dakin were at the same price point as Carrier.
So all that does
So
is
the
add
only
time
way you're going to get to Mitsubishi
is to do the change.
is to do a change
That's
order.
what I thought.
Or you're going to get a resubmission on LG and go through the process, and a resubmission on
Right.
Dakin.
Which is a total waste of time.
And now, yeah,
So they're
That's
just
why I
gonna
asked the
bring us
question.
down this path until we get so frustrated that, but isn't there a time frame for them?
they're not going to offer a $40,000 difference in their contract price just to say we're equal.
But if they're not equal,
So it's a long path that,
Can't afford to go to the casino.
So your advice is to act on this quickly?
I know that there are two other manufacturers out there that are stating that they are equal. They didn't get a chance to get submitted, they didn't get a contract. Both LG and Dakin are claiming they're equal. Just as Carrier is.
Motion to accept the change order for up to $45,000 to substitute
I think it's gonna be
Mitsubishi instead of having
41,
Carrier.
I think it's gonna be 41,433.
So
My
42.
numbers are
Why
right.
don't you just say not to exceed
not
42?
not to exceed $42,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so the motion is not to exceed 42.
Not to exceed $42,000, a change from Carrier to Mitsubishi.
Because it's 5% and then 0.7%, right?
Yeah.
So, and the
That's-
original was 39,199?
So that's 41, that's 41 and change.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Who's first?
Give it to Chuck.
Any further discussion?
Enthusiastically now.
I mean, I think it's a good thing, and to put in a system that's gonna give you trouble, shortly down the road is just foolish.
I think this is a win-win.
I do too.
And we don't want Ernie showing up at the door to the police station every day saying, I told you, I told you, I told you.
Okay.
And I don't want a building like this one.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. It wasn't,
It would be easy to approve the submission package, I know that. It's going to be a specified item, so if they can get a submission package into us, it's an easy turnaround.
Good.
tell Mike we did it for him, so no further charges.
Well, can you ask Apex to get the amount of inlets into the slab so we can
Yes.
now put that to bed?
Yep.
And you going to the plumbing engineer's house tomorrow?
I gotta find out where this, yeah. I'm assuming he's on vacation, but we'll get the answer.
We'll find a new one.
Do we, as
Let me
a committee, have the right to say, we're only gonna accept the 2-inch? And then be at our own risk if for some reason it didn't work right? Everybody, everybody.
Probably could do that, couldn't we? Brian?
Give me 24 hours. I wanna find out the answer as to why it's 4, so that's,
Well, if he considered it institutional, that's why he went to 4.
To my knowledge, there's only one 3-inch water meter in town. Everything else is 2-inch or below, and it's for filling up the fire stations. So the Freeman Kennedy, they have the bigger backflows for the sprinklers, but they all have 2-inch or smaller. So there's a lot. Obviously, it has to do an elevation, but as long as the plumbing code states that we have the capacity through a 2-inch line, I don't see the need to spend $31,000 to dig up the road.
No.
We already have it there.
Well,
Nor do I.
And even if we had,
24 hours.
worst case scenario, we could put a booster on it, and 3-phase booster with controls, I'd say no more than, say, 10,000, we'd still be way above.
Well, the booster would only be pressure.
pressure. You might have enough pressure there.
Right.
Well, that was part of the issue, is that there was no elevation. So they wanted to have larger pipes for the volume, since you weren't gonna have the pressure.
Be the same pressure.
Yeah.
Because the tank is so close?
There's no head pressure
Well,
on it.
because the tank's, not high enough,
Yeah.
in relation.
Yeah, it's like here.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's math, Chuck, don't worry about it.
No, I do remember a little bit about that.
Way back.
That's right, he's a former water department employee.
Yeah.
All right. Any other issues?
Just down the road for the fire department, there was some discussion as far as where we would stand in terms of plan preparation. I had a chance to talk to Brian earlier today. Are we still in the ballpark? Brian's looking at starting us in December. Is that still something that we're looking at?
Sounds reasonable to me.
Is there any reason why we would delay it?
I was just curious. Curiosity killed the cat. Satisfaction.
I can't wait till they ask that question again in 2 weeks, Cole. It'll be
That's
great.
right. I'm like clockwork, Jack.
I know,
I'm
it's
like
awesome.
clockwork.
Usually it's before 5.
I couldn't, we were talking about air, hot air.
Okay, and need a
I think,
motion?
I think by,
Motion
yeah, I think by that point, we're gonna know most of the costs on the site side, so I would hope December we could start.
Yep.
As far as next meeting, I'll need to come back when I have the next requisition. I don't know if there's anything that's pressing here in the next 2 weeks for a meeting. If you wanted to go to the 28th of November, then I would have the next requisition in my hand. It's up to you.
If we don't have anything else to meet on.
That's the night that we're meeting with King Philip, but that's at 7, so yeah, it shouldn't be a problem.
And in the meantime, if we had to meet as a committee without Brian, we could do that.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
We'll still have job meetings every 2 weeks.
Yes, so the 14th is the next one.
Right.
Yep.
I think we were thinking about increasing the frequency of those to weekly. What are your
2
thoughts?
weeks. It's standard, it's every other.
Thursday at 1? 12.
What's standard, every other week?
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
We have a motion to adjourn, do I have a second?
Second.
All those in
So are
favor?
we gonna
Aye.
meet
What's that?
on the 28th?
28th.
28th.
Site meeting is still on the 14th.
So site meeting still on the 14th. Ernie, closing
Yes.
comments?
I bring up a couple of things.
Where'd you go?
Requisition, we're into number 4. 5. Have we had any of the release of liens been brought back to us?
Not yet, no.
Those are supposed to be before each additional requisition, that goes to purchasing. The certified payrolls,
Those are being submitted.
okay. The other one would be, it's coming up, the removal of snow and ice. That does belong, according to the general conditions, to the contractor, unless we've changed it.
Contractor for the purposes of construction, yes.
Right. Certified payrolls and monthly payments. And access to the site. Again, according to the general conditions, 3.161, the access to the site is still owned by the owner. The owner has the right to let anybody they want onto the site. They are the ones that give permission for the general contractor to go on the site. I'm saying that because I went down there last Thursday, just kind of looking around. I was asked to come over by the general contractor. I had a conversation with him. I had a conversation with the clerk. They were going to place concrete today. So I just popped in to see what was going on and thrown off the site.
Not by me.
Not by him. I couldn't go over to even talk to him. There are no posted signs there that visitors are to go to the clerk's office, which all visitors are supposed to do. They're placing concrete. Has your engineers done any of the viewing to do the as-built drawings? Once the concrete's down, it's pretty hard to see it. Those are all things that should be in our hands or okayed by the engineers before payments are let loose. We get too far down the line, especially on these certifications of payment, the town is responsible to pay them, whether or not we paid the general contractor. Doesn't matter. We are the ones still responsible until purchasing gets the release of liens. That's also from suppliers. I vented.
Okay, good enough. Any comments?
The general contractor is holding the insurance policy on that site right now. So even though we own the property, it's his insurance, all his liability. His fear is that you need to be, be there for a reason.
Yep.
I think signage is being posted too.
He's actually fenced in the entire site now,
Yep.
so. as-built are being done by the electrician and the plumber, so all those as-built are done. The access, again, you know, to me, if somebody just walks onto that site and they get hurt, you know, who's gonna get sued? I mean, the contractor's gonna get sued, and probably the town as well, so it's not a place that anybody should be walking onto.
I agree.
And then you know, if they want to, is there anyone wants to meet with the project manager, they can make an appointment and meet up at the town hall, so.
But Bob, according to the general conditions, you're supposed to be, the ownership of it is the town. Now, on every other site you go on, every one I've been on, there's a sign. All visitors go to the main office. At that time, you meet with the clerk, they issue you a hard hat, tell you whether or not he is going to escort you out through the site, or you can talk to the general contractor.
So
But-
maybe we should put a phone number on there and have you call.
Yeah, I'm
Project
just saying,
manager.
the way they run is that they do have signage. Any of these big construction sites you go by, there will be signage. All visitors. This is, the way this comes through is you have salesmen and other stuff that go on these job sites.
He was putting up
You have
signage,
people come in to check on the labor.
doing it,
You
you're
have
taking
your
care of the
business
gate.
agents, stuff like this.
You're
But
also
it
gonna
should be
hold
posted.
the gate up.
It
There's
will
no
be.
signage down here at all.
Well, Ernie, we're going to put the signage up.
Okay,
We're going to put it up.
whatever.
Yep.
It's already in progress.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
All's in favor?
You voted before you called for the vote.
Well, Jack did the same thing.
There's no discussion on the motion to adjourn.
That's true, there isn't.